Photograph leaders, welcome back to my channel. Here we are on the east coast of Demerara. What I'm showing you here is condominium complex being built. Here in Cummings Lodge. You've seen this building before. I actually showed you in a previous video. Morning. While it was being constructed, I showed you that this building was being constructed here. This is the East Coast Road, that is the Craig Highway looking west towards Georgetown. Alright, this is looking east. That's the morning traffic coming off the East Coast into Georgetown. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning. We want to take this. This is condominium. We walked beside this condo last time we were on this neck of the woods. Atlantic Ville. Behind is Cummings Lodge. But here we want to take a look at how far they've come since the last time we were in this neck of the woods. It seems as if they have completed at least the outside of one of the buildings. You can see the paintwork. They've already painted applied external paint to one of those buildings. And the other one, I think, is still being worked on, not yet completed. Remember the last time I showed you this building, they were still working on the outside. In fact, they were working on the whole building. So there were these holes, there were no windows on it. And so I saw those tiny windows on the top, and I wondered whether they would be places for air conditioning units. Somebody in the comments pointed out that that's usually where they place the bathroom. So those are usually ventilation windows for the toilet. So those tiny windows at the top are usually toilet windows. And this is what the almost completed other half of the multi-unit building looks like. Right, it's inside a compound that is also contains the entrance to another building. Right, so that's kind of a, I don't know, I guess it's probably going to be a gated community. They're building the wall, they're putting on the external finishes. So, as I said, those tiny windows at the top that I thought were wall air conditioning units, where I thought wall air conditioning units were going, somebody pointed out that's where they probably placed the toilets. And down below you can see the air conditioning units have been installed, so clearly those are not going to be wall air conditioning units. And so if you were to count based on the toilet windows, right? If you just count the toilet windows, assuming there's one per apartment, there 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, perhaps 30 apartment units, at least on the top floor. I don't know if the ones on the ground floor relates to the ones on the top, but at least 30 on the top, and if they're separate units on the bottom, then there are another 30 on the bottom, so 60 units. It could be 120 units altogether, at least 100 units in this apartment complex here in Atlantic Ville. This is not Atlantic Gardens, because we did a video on Atlantic Gardens in a few previous episodes some months ago. Go take a look at that if you want to see. But this is what is happening here in Atlantic Ville, right in front of Cummings Lodge, and of course that's the East Coast Road in front there, section of River Craig Highway. So yeah, we just wanted to see what was happening here and update, a small brief update on this condominium unit on the East Coast. It's a multi-unit condominium complex, not a high-rise like the one we see in Oleander Gardens next door, but nevertheless, it seems to have been carefully thought out. Well, this is not what is called affordable housing. This is not affordable housing. It's probably not even government subsidized housing, and there is need for government subsidized affordable housing in Guyana. Government has not yet built any, hasn't built any housing complexes like they did, for example, in Singapore or in the US, which actually are quite needed, quite necessary, right? These subsidized housing units are needed because not everybody can afford to live in a condominium like this, even though it's cheaper, for example, to buy a condominium, right? Because you don't have to pay for the land and so on. It's still not affordable for everyone to live like this. And so there's still need for another level. There's many kinds of housing in the mix that are needed in Guyana. This is just one kind. There's need for government subsidized multi-story, multi-unit housing complexes, what used to be called project housing in the US, what are called HDB housing in Singapore, and so on. So this is not that, but it is an example of what is being done in the housing sector. It's multi-unit condominium buildings, probably apartments. These are probably rental apartments in Atlantic Ville. And this is an update on the housing situation in Guyana. So that's what's it. This is happening here, guys. This is traditionally what we've built in Guyana, but now, of course, because of the new law, it's now possible to build and rent these multi-unit condominiums. So there are going to be a lot of real estate developers who are now going to build multi-unit condominiums because, of course, you can manage all of the facilities together. It's like building a hotel, but for, you know, long-term guests who own or who stay for multiple years. And I'm a list, in fact, when I do a video on my own condominium that I'm building for smart homes, some of the advantages that you have and what goes into pricing and building and developing condominiums. Those of you, some people who've actually said they're interested in owning in my housing development, I will also provide you with information on how to do that. Right, but Guyana, of course, is the fastest growing economy in the world, and there's a high demand for housing. I would say we're where Canada was about in the mid 1990s, 1995, 1996, right, when they had these phase one housing developments, and people would try to get in at phase one, buy a phase one house and sell it at phase two, and so on. Well, that's where Guyana is. So those of you who were in Ontario housing market in the 90s and you're looking at investing, this is where Guyana is. We're actually at where Ontario phase one housing was in 1995, 96, 97, 98, in the early 2000s. Now, of course, housing in Canada and the US has gotten way out of hand because it's a commodity, and the banks, the investments, the fund, these fund managers have bought up large swaths of property, single family homes in America, right? Banks, for example, have bought up 10%, 15%, 12% of the houses in California, in Georgia, and so on. And that's what's driving up the price. So people are claiming that it's the immigration in Canada and the US that's driving up the prices. It's not immigration that's driving up the prices. It's banks that are buying up these houses. Remember in 2008 there were foreclosures. A lot of the houses were bought up by the banks, and some investors, that is the hedge funds, realized that it was a way to make money. So since 2008 to now, they have been buying up multi-story, single-family homes and multi-family homes, not even in foreclosure, but just in the housing market. Taking those houses on the market is what's driving up the price of housing, right? Commercializing the commercial housing market in Canada and America is out of hand because the banks have bought up, and the investors, private investors, have bought up the houses. That's what's happening, guys. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening here in the fastest growing country in the world, Guyana. Later.